Good evening. This is a presentation to the Lakewood Planning Commission regarding parkland acquisition and dedications. I am Ross Williams, the facility planner for the City of Lakewood. The purpose of this presentation is to review potential changes to the parkland dedication requirements of the City of Lakewood, to hear public testimony, and provide recommendations to the City Council regarding the potential changes in the dedication requirements. This matter has been referred to the Planning Commission by the Lakewood City Council. In order to have a better understanding of our parkland and acquisition needs and dedication requirements, I'd like to give a brief history of the City of Lakewood and our process in acquiring these city parklands. On the slide before you is the City of Lakewood. The City of Lakewood owns approximately 7,100 acres of parkland within its 44 square miles of corporate limits. That equates to approximately 25.6% of this land is managed for parks and open space. This also gives us a figure based on our population of approximately 46.2 acres of parkland for every 1,000 residents of the City of Lakewood. This chart shows how the City of Lakewood compares with other Front Range municipalities. Lakewood in red has 44 square miles within its corporate limits, and approximately 25.6% of it is managed for parks and open space. The small parenthesis number you see in this diagram indicates how much of the land is owned by the City of Lakewood, where we have large portions of our properties are leased from either the Corps of Engineer or agricultural reservoirs and ditch companies. As you can see, the City of Lakewood's parkland is equal to or higher than almost every one of these Front Range cities, and with only Broomfield being higher when we deduct out our leased properties. How did we come to these facilities and being purchased? Let's go back in our history with this chart. Before 1969, the year that the City of Lakewood was incorporated, the area contained approximately 220 acres of parkland. Much of that was purchased by various districts that preceded the city, with approximately 18 acres of that being dedicated by developers in the area, primarily unusable properties for what they were developing. Example being Holbrook Park. It was a drainage way, they couldn't build houses there because of flooding issues and other concerns, so it was decided to dedicate those to the municipal agency or the county at that particular time. Between 1969 and 1983 was our largest period of parkland acquisition, or increasing our percentages there. This time period, it was chosen because 69 was when the city incorporated, and 1983 is when our parkland dedication ordinance or requirements came into effect. Significant things that occurred during this time. Primarily, the Jefferson County Open Space Sales Tax Program was passed in 1972 for the acquisition of parks and open space throughout the county. This led to a significant increase in purchases of parkland. As you can see in this slide, approximately 5,400 acres were purchased, with another 268 negotiated through official development plans or negotiated by other means to acquire parkland. Then the third time period is from since the parkland dedication ordinance has been in place. As you can see, we also continue to increase our parkland. Approximately 1,000 acres have been purchased, and another 209 have come through the dedication process, either through older ODPs that are finally been completed out, or by the requirements of the Parkland Dedication Ordinance. Our current Parkland Dedication Ordinance has several components to it. It is applicable to only residential developments which includes mixed use and all multifamily developments. It specifically states that there are 2.5 persons per household. In order to calculate the Parkland needs, we need a population. This number is basically an average of the various types of housing units, whereas a single-family detached home may generate 3 to 3.5 persons per household, and multifamily attached or apartments, we'll be looking at in the 1.5 to 2 persons per household. In order to ease the calculations, it was chosen to stay with the 2.5 persons per household. The ordinance also codifies our Parkland standards, where we require 2.5 acres per thousand population for neighborhood parkland, parks that serve people within a half-mile walk, that have low-intensity neighborhood facilities. The next level of park is community parks, our community parks, which the standard is 3 acres per thousand population. These are your larger facilities that include sports fields and large aggregate intensive use, such as Morris Park, Lakewood Park, Addenbrook, Carmody, and Ray Ross Park. The ordinance specifically says that the city has a standard of 5 acres per thousand population of regional park space, but also indicates that since we have a significant amount of parks in this category as parks and open space, that there would be no need to dedicate additional parkland from individual residents. These standards are derived from standards established or produced by the National Parks and Recreation Association and are pretty standard across the country. When it is determined that land is not desirable, or the land, when we do take land, it needs to be in the same planning area that was established for those areas where the money was collected and where the development is occurring, giving us a good nexus to the property. The ordinance gives a provision that allows us to require dedication based on the formula that's set forth in there, but it also gives us, the city, an option to collect a fee instead of collecting land if it's not desirable to have small parcels or parcels that don't meet the needs, an organized plan for providing parks and open space throughout the city. Decisions regarding where we would like parkland should be based on the comprehensive plan, and also the dedication ordinance was based on a desire and a comprehensive plan to make sure that we do require new development to provide for the park space at levels that have been previously established throughout the city. There are no provisions for wavering, so every residential development is required to provide park land dedication or a fee in lieu of, and in some cases we have accepted improvements in lieu of the fee to get parking moved a little faster. The ordinance specifically caps the per unit cost or fee at $700 per unit. This is a number that the council at that time felt was important to not overburden the cost of housing. And it basically equates out to land values within the city of Lakewood being approximately $50,000 per acre. To date, the city Department of Community Resources has gone through significant planning processes to talk with the community about parks and open space. Imagine Lakewood, the city Department of Community Resources comprehensive plan was recently adopted after much public involvement over the last year. In that document, the community was very loud in saying that parks and open space are important to the citizens of Lakewood and that we would like to continue the standard that we have already established. In fall of last year, a councilor made a proposal to make changes in the Parkland dedication ordinance, and in reaction to that, the Department of Community Resources has held 2 council study sessions to discuss the issue and discuss the concerns and the proposed changes. City Council has recommended that we take the proposed changes to the Planning Commission, as it is affects land use within the city of Lakewood, and solicit public comment along with recommendations of the Planning Commission at your formal meeting. Those recommendations, along with proposed changes in ordinance, will be brought before City Council. It is the intent to bring it to them towards the end of March in an ordinance form, which can be adopted in April and take effect as soon as possible. So what are the proposed modifications to the park dedication requirements? There are some general provisions that are appropriate and common to both options that are being proposed or are shown to you tonight. First, there is a requirement to only accept land in developments over 15 acres. Basically, this requirement would prohibit the department from not taking land and taking cash. If a developer had desired to change that, they would have to go before council to ask for a waiver of the provision of only providing land dedication. We are proposing some updates and cleanup of errors, basically housekeeping items that the original ordinance back in 1983 was not totally clear on or are no longer applicable in today's situations. And when it was codified, there were some technical errors that showed up in the information. We're also proposing to delete the provision to credit school dedication towards parkland dedication. What we have found is that most of our schools, and with the changing climate on security, that those properties are not generally available to the general public after school or any other time during school days. And we are also proposing to expand when the provisions can be assessed and collected. The ordinance specifically ties it to the platting of the property, and with changes in the zoning ordinances over the past few years, we believe it would be prudent to include a time of triggering parkland dedication requirements at the time of site planning, with the provision that we may collect it at the time of building permit. Regarding fees, there are 2 options being proposed. The first option being raise the cap on the per unit fee from $700 to $2,100, effective immediately upon the passage of the ordinance. The cap would be reviewed annually and adjusted appropriately. The second option would be to raise the fees based on recent acquisition prices per acre of parkland, just to make sure that we are keeping up with the market value that we believe that we purchased property for, and also be reviewed annually and adjusted appropriately. These are 2 options that the council is having difficulty and would like to have Planning Commission's recommendations on. Where do we move from here? Hopefully, after tonight's meeting, we will have recommendations from the Planning Commission. From there, we will take those recommendations along with the proposed ordinance revisions to present to City Council at their regular meeting of March 26th, with hopefully a public hearing and adoption at their April 9th meeting. With that, I would thank you for your time and await your decisions and discussions, and can answer any of your questions regarding this matter.